Part 1. The Grand Diplomatic Hall of the Velthrian flagship was a sight that made most species feel small. Crystal pillars rose 50 feet high, catching the light from 3 different suns outside. The floor was made of polished stone that reflected everything like a mirror. Hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds stood in small groups, talking in hushed voices. Taemin stood near a large window, looking out at the stars. He wore the simple dark uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. No medals, no fancy decorations. Just a small blue and green patch on his shoulder showing his home planet. He held a glass of something that tasted like sweet water but wasn't quite right. Nothing ever tasted right on alien ships. He had been an ambassador for 5 years now. But, before that, he flew exploration ships to the edge of known space. He preferred flying. Diplomacy meant standing in rooms like this, making small talk with beings who were afraid of him. He could see it in their eyes. The way they watched humans. The way they kept their distance. A Corvan delegate walked past him, giving him a wide berth. The Corvan were tall, with blue skin and 4 arms. They were strong and proud. But this one looked at Taemin like he was a bomb that might explode. Taemin sighed. It was always like this. Ambassador Taemin? He turned. A young woman stood behind him, though woman wasn't quite the right word. She was Velthrian, with pale lavender skin and large dark eyes that had no white in them at all. She wore robes of deep purple that marked her as royalty. Her hair was long and silver, pulled back in a complex style that probably meant something important. Princess Arya, Taemin said, bowing slightly. He had studied Velthrian customs for months before this meeting. I hope you're enjoying the reception. May I speak with you? She asked. Her voice was soft but clear. Privately, if possible. Taemin raised an eyebrow but nodded. This was unusual. The Velthrians had been polite but distant during all the diplomatic meetings. They never asked for private conversations. She led him to a smaller viewing room off the main hall. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. Through the window, Taemin could see the curve of the space station below and the endless stars beyond. I apologize for the directness, Princess Arya said. But I must ask you something. Something that troubles my people greatly. Please. Ask anything, Taemin replied. She was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. We have studied your species for many years, since you first entered galactic space 80 years ago. We have analyzed your history, your wars, your expansion patterns. We have psychological profiles on thousands of humans. She paused. There is something we cannot understand. Taemin waited. He had a feeling he knew where this was going. Your people spread through space like nothing we have ever seen. In 80 years, you have colonized 47 worlds. It took my people 300 years to colonize 12. Her eyes searched his face. You build homes on planets that would kill most species. You fly through asteroid fields for sport. You treat black holes as landmarks for navigation. You volunteer for missions where the chance of death is over 50%. She stepped closer to the window, looking out at the void. Every species we know looks at space and sees danger. They see the cold, the radiation, the endless ways to die. They expand slowly, carefully, always afraid of what might be out there. She turned back to him. But humans, you look at space with excitement, with joy. Even, my advisors say you have no sense of danger. My generals say you are either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most foolish. Princess Arya's voice dropped to almost a whisper. So I must ask you, Ambassador, why do humans fear nothing? Taemin was quiet for a long moment. He set his glass down on a nearby table and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars, at the vast darkness between them. May I show you something, Princess? He asked. Of course. He pointed at a small yellow star in the distance. It didn't look special, just one star among billions. I know, she said gently. I have studied your system. Then you know the facts, Taemin said. But do you understand what they mean? He pulled out a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. A hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed Earth, spinning, slowly. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds swirling across the surface. Beautiful, Princess Arya said. Deadly, Taemin corrected. He touched the hologram and it zoomed in. You asked why we fear nothing. You think we're fearless. But you're wrong, Princess. We're not fearless at all. We're terrified. We've been terrified since the day we first stood upright and looked at the sky. She looked confused. I don't understand. Let me tell you about the world that made us, Taemin said quietly. Let me tell you why we look at space and see something familiar. Quote, Taemin, 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 Taemin. He changed the hologram. It now showed data streams and charts. Your home world has a stable climate, correct? Temperature varies by maybe 10 degrees throughout the year? Yes, she said. As do most civilized worlds. Earth's temperature can vary by 60 degrees in a single location. Sometimes in a single day. He pulled up more data. We have storms that generate winds over 300 kilometers per hour. End quote. Earthquakes that can level cities. Volcanoes that can block out the sun for years. Waves of water 50 feet high that destroy everything in their path. Princess Arya stared at the data. But that's impossible. How did your species survive? Barely, Taemin said. Earth has had 5 major extinction events. 5 times, almost all life on our planet died. We're descended from the survivors. The lucky ones who didn't die. He changed the image again. Now it showed microscopic organisms. Do you know what these are? She shook her head. Diseases. Tiny living things that evolved specifically to kill larger life forms. They're everywhere on Earth. In the air, in the water, in the soil. Every human alive carries billions of them. We have entire organ systems dedicated to fighting them. If we don't, we die. That's horrifying, she whispered. That's Tuesday, Taemin replied. Princess, you look at space and see danger. You see radiation, vacuum, extreme temperatures. You see things that can kill you. He turned to face her fully. We look at space and see a mild spring day compared to home. She was silent, trying to process what he was saying. The radiation in space? Taemin continued. Less than the radiation we get from our own sun. We call it sunlight. We need it to live. The vacuum? At least it's predictable. It won't suddenly freeze you one day and boil you the next, like Earth's weather. Asteroids? We can see them coming. Not like earthquakes or tsunamis. He walked back to the window and looked at his distant home star. You asked why we fear nothing. But that's not the right question, Princess. The right question is, what did Earth teach us to fear? He was quiet for a moment. It taught us that nowhere is truly safe, that comfort is temporary. We learned these lessons over millions of years, written in the bones of our ancestors who didn't make it. Princess Arya joined him at the window. Then why explore? Why leave Earth at all? If you knew space was dangerous, Taemin smiled, but it was a sad smile. Because Earth also taught us something else. It taught us that standing still means dying. The species that didn't adapt, that didn't explore new territories, that didn't push beyond their comfort zones. They're all extinct now. We learned that the only way to survive is to keep moving, keep adapting, keep exploring. He pointed at the stars again. You see danger out there. We see it too. But we also see possibility. New worlds, new challenges, new chances to prove that we can survive anything the universe throws at us. Because if we survived Earth... He trailed off. If you survived Earth, space is easy. Princess Arya finished quietly. Not easy. Taemin corrected. Nothing is easy. But manageable. Understandable. We've died in space, Princess. We've lost ships, colonies, thousands of people. But we've lost billions on Earth over the millennia. At least in space, we chose to be there. At least in space, we're moving forward. The princess was quiet for a long time, staring out at the stars. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. My advisors were right to be afraid of you. But not for the reasons they think. Taemin looked at her. Waiting. They fear your weapons, your ships, your expansion. But that's not what frightens me. She met his eyes. What frightens me is that you see the same dangers we do, and you smile and walk toward them anyway. That's not fearlessness. That's something far more dangerous. What is it? Taemin asked. Hope, she said softly. Terrible, unstoppable hope. Princess Arya couldn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about what the human ambassador had said. About Earth. About survival. About hope. She had dismissed her attendants early, and now sat alone in her quarters, staring at a holographic display of the human homeworld. It looked so peaceful from space, so blue and beautiful. How could something so lovely be as dangerous as Taemin claimed? The next morning, she sent a message to the human delegation. She wanted to speak with Taemin again. She needed to understand. They met in the same viewing room as before. Taemin arrived carrying a datapad and a small metal case. He looked tired. Like he hadn't slept well either. Thank you for meeting with me again, Ambassador, Arya said. Please, just call me Taemin, he replied. We're past formal titles. I think. She nodded. I spent all night reading about Earth. The official reports. The scientific data. But numbers don't help me understand. I need you to explain it to me. Really explain it. How did your people survive on such a world? Taemin set down his case and activated his datapad. A new hologram appeared between them. This one showed not the planet, but a single human. He was primitive, wearing animal skins, holding a wooden spear. This is Sung Ho. Taemin said. Well, not really. We don't know his actual name, but he represents our ancestors from about 50,000 years ago, before cities, before farming, before writing, when humans were just one species among many, trying to survive. 4 Montun dated, before Montun attest again, the hologram animated. Sung Ho and his small tribe walked across a vast grassland. In the distance, huge animals grazed. Things with long tusks and thick fur. Your people evolved on a world with gentle herbivores, correct? Taemin asked. Yes, Arya replied. The largest animal on my world is about the size of your deer, and they're peaceful. These are mammoths, Taemin said, pointing at the huge creatures. They weighed 6 tons. One of them could kill a human with a single step. But Sung Ho and his tribe hunted them anyway. The hologram showed the hunt. The small humans with their primitive weapons surrounding the massive beast. It looked impossible. Suicidal. How? Arya whispered. Persistence, Taemin said. They followed the mammoth for days. They threw spears to wound it, not kill it. They never let it rest. They chased it until it was too tired to fight back. Then, they killed it. That's cruel, Arya said. That's survival, Taemin replied. And it made us what we are. We're not the fastest species. Not the strongest. Not the smartest. But we don't quit. Ever. That mammoth was bigger, stronger, more dangerous. But Sung Ho and his people needed to eat, so they found a way. He changed the hologram again. Now it showed different scenes from Earth's history. Humans crossing frozen wastelands. Humans in scorching deserts. Humans climbing mountains that touched the clouds. We didn't just stay in one comfortable place, Princess. We spread across the entire planet. We lived in every environment Earth had. Frozen tundra, where the temperature drops to -50 degrees. Deserts where water is so rare that people die of thirst. Jungles filled with diseases and predators. mountain peaks where the air is too thin to breathe. Ruth. Why? Arya asked. Why not just stay in the safe places? Why? Taemin looked at her with something like pity. There are no safe places on Earth. The safe places had other humans who didn't want to share. Or they had different dangers. Or the climate would change and make them unsafe. So we learned to live everywhere, to adapt to anything. He pulled up a new image. This one showed a cross-section of Earth's interior. Your world is geologically stable. Yes? The ground doesn't move? Of course not, Arya said. That would be catastrophic. Earth's crust is broken into pieces called tectonic plates. They move constantly. Sometimes they collide and create mountains. Sometimes they split apart and create volcanoes. Sometimes they slide past each other and create earthquakes that destroy entire cities. He showed her videos. Buildings collapsing. Ground splitting open. Waves of earth moving like water. We've lost millions of people to earthquakes over our history, and we keep building in the same places, because we have to live somewhere, and everywhere is dangerous. Arya felt sick. Your world is trying to kill you. No, Taemin said quietly. Earth doesn't care about us at all. That's worse. If it was trying to kill us, we could fight back. But it's just existing. Being itself. We're the ones who have to adapt. He showed her more. Hurricanes that could flatten entire coastal regions. Tornadoes that picked up houses and threw them miles away. Blizzards that buried cities in snow. Floods that drowned thousands. Every year, Earth kills hundreds of our people through natural disasters. Every single year. And that's now. With all our technology. Imagine what it was like for Sung Ho and his tribe. Imagine facing a storm with nothing but animal skins for shelter. The hologram changed to show microscopic images, tiny organisms, bacteria, viruses. And then there are these, Taemin said. The invisible killers. Do you know what a plague is, princess? She shook her head. It's when a disease spreads through a population and kills massive numbers. Earth has had hundreds of plagues throughout human history. Sometimes, they killed half the population of entire continents. Millions dead. And we couldn't even see what was killing us until we invented microscopes. He showed her historical records. Bodies piled in streets. Cities abandoned. Entire civilizations collapsing. We learned to wash our hands. To quarantine the sick. To develop medicines. But even now, new diseases appear every few years. Earth keeps trying new ways to kill us, and we keep finding ways to survive. Arya was shaking. This is a nightmare. How did your species not go extinct? We almost did. Several times. Taemin brought up a graph. This shows human population over the last 100,000 years. See these drops? Those are times when we nearly died out. Once, our entire species was down to maybe 10,000 individuals. One good plague, or supervolcano, and we would have been gone. But you survived. We survived. And every time we nearly died, we learned. We adapted. We changed our behavior, our tools, our strategies. Evolution is slow, princess. It takes millions of years, but cultural evolution is fast. We learn to pass knowledge to our children, to remember the disasters, and plan for the next ones. He opened the metal case he had brought. Inside was a piece of rock, gray and rough. This is a piece of volcanic stone from Mount Hala on Earth. My grandfather gave it to me when I joined the space program. He held it carefully. His grandfather survived an eruption there, barely. Lost half his family. He kept this stone to remember, to never forget, that Earth is beautiful and terrible. Arya reached out and touched the stone. It was cold and rough under her fingers. You carry this with you? A reminder of death? A reminder of survival? Taemin corrected. My ancestor survived that eruption. He lived, had children, and those children had children, all the way down to me. That stone reminds me that no matter how bad things get, humans find a way. He put the stone back in its case. You asked yesterday why we explore space, why we colonize dangerous worlds, why we don't fear the void. He looked at her directly. It's because we come from Earth. We evolved in a place where the ground can open beneath your feet, where the sky can kill you with lightning, where invisible organisms can eat you from the inside out, where the weather can freeze or boil you, depending on the season. Space is safer, Arya said, finally understanding. Space is predictable, Taemin said. Radiation? We can shield against it. Vacuum? We can seal against it. Asteroids? We can see them coming. In space, the dangers follow rules. Physical laws. We can calculate risks and prepare for them. On Earth, a sunny day can turn into a killer storm in an hour. You can't prepare for everything Earth throws at you. He brought up a final image. It showed Earth from space again, that beautiful blue marble. Every human who goes into space, who volunteers for the dangerous missions, who colonizes the harsh worlds, they're carrying Earth with them, not just in their hearts, but in their bones, their instincts, their DNA. We're engineered by millions of years of barely surviving to be tough, adaptable, and too stubborn to quit. Arya looked at the image of Earth for a long time. My people think you're reckless, that you don't understand danger. We understand danger better than anyone, Taemin said. We've lived with it every day of our existence. That's why we seem reckless to you. You see a dangerous situation and think we might die. And have you? Arya asked. Survived worse than space? Taemin smiled, but there was no humor in it. Princess. My ancestors hunted animals 10 times their size with pointed sticks. They crossed oceans in wooden boats, not knowing if there was land on the other side. They lived through ice ages and plagues and volcanic winters and wars that killed millions. They survived Earth itself trying to kill them for millions of years. He gestured to the stars outside the window. Space is dangerous. We know that. We respect that. But compared to what Earth put us through? He shook his head. Space is just the next challenge. And if Earth couldn't kill us, nothing can. Arya was quiet for a very long time. Finally, she spoke. I need to tell my father about this. About Earth. About what it means. What will you tell him? Taemin asked. She looked at him with those large, dark eyes. That we've been asking the wrong question. We've been asking if humans are dangerous. If they'll conquer us. If we should fear them. She paused. But the real question is, what kind of species survives a death world and still looks at the stars with hope? What kind of beings face extinction over and over and keep trying anyway? And what's your answer? Taemin asked quietly. The kind we want as allies, Arya said. Not enemies. Princess Arya requested another meeting the following day. This time, she brought her military advisor, a stern Velthrian commander named Kale. He had been one of the voices pushing for caution regarding humans. He needed to understand what Arya was beginning to see. Taemin arrived to find them both waiting in the viewing room. Kale stood rigid, his 3-fingered hands clasped behind his back. He looked at Taemin with barely concealed distrust. Commander, Taemin said, nodding respectfully. Ambassador, Kale replied. His voice was cold. The princess insists I hear your explanation of human nature. Personally, I believe your species is a threat that we've been too polite to address. Kale, Arya said sharply. It's all right, Taemin said. He's not wrong to be concerned. In his position, I'd feel the same way. He looked at the commander. You've read the reports on humanity's first contact with alien life. Yes? I have, Kale said. 80 years ago. First contact with the Kryn mining fleet at Proxima Centauri. Your official report says it was a Defensive engagement. He emphasized the last words with obvious skepticism. That's the diplomatic version, Taemin said. Would you like to know what really happened? Kale's eyes narrowed. Taemin activated his datapad. A hologram appeared showing a spacecraft. It was primitive compared to modern human ships, with visible welding seams and mismatched hull plates. It looked like it had been built in someone's garage. This is the Horizon, Earth's first faster-than-light ship, Captain Ji Woo commanding. Crew of 200. Half of them were engineers because the ship kept breaking down. The other half were scientists and explorers. Not a single dedicated soldier on board. An exploration vessel, Arya said. A desperate attempt to find new resources, Taemin corrected. Earth was dying, Princess. 8 billion people on one planet. Running out of room. Running out of resources. We had to expand or face collapse. The Horizon was humanity's hope. Our first step into the galaxy. He changed the image. Now it showed a different ship. This one was sleek, powerful, with obvious weapon ports along its hull. This is a Kryn destroyer. The Kryn are a predatory species. They'd conquered 17 other species over the previous 1,000 years. They saw newer spacefaring species as either resources to exploit or threats to eliminate. I know of the Kryn, Kale said. They control a significant territory in the outer spiral. We've had border disputes with them. Had, Taemin said, past tense. They don't come near human or Velthrian space anymore. Want to know why? He didn't wait for an answer. The hologram changed to show a battle scene. The small, battered Horizon, surrounded by 6 Kryn destroyers. Captain Jiwoo took the Horizon to Proxima Centauri. It was the closest star system to Earth. We hoped to find planets we could colonize. What we found was a Kryn mining operation. They'd been there for decades, stripping asteroids, building outposts. The hologram animated. The Horizon approaching slowly, sending peaceful signals. The Kryn ships, powering weapons. The Kryn demanded we surrender our ship and our FTL technology. They said Sol System was now Kryn territory, and we were trespassing. Captain Jiwoo refused. Foolish, Kale muttered. Necessary, Taemin replied. If we surrendered, humanity would be slaves. We'd just escaped one dying world. We weren't going to submit to conquerors. So, Jiwoo refused. And the Kryn opened fire. The hologram showed weapons fire streaking across space. The Horizon's shields flaring. Then, failing. Hull breaches. Explosions. The Horizon wasn't a warship. It had minimal shields and no weapons. It was a transport with an FTL drive strapped to it. The Kryn expected us to surrender immediately or die quickly. But you didn't, Arya said quietly. No, Taemin said. Because Captain Jiwoo was from Seoul. Her family had survived 3 different wars on Earth. Her grandmother had survived a building collapse during an earthquake. Her mother had survived a plague that killed millions. Jiwoo grew up hearing stories about survival, about never giving up, no matter how bad things looked. He changed the hologram. Now it showed the interior of the Horizon. Crew members running, fires burning, systems failing. And in the center, Captain Jiwoo giving orders. She told her crew they could either die running or die fighting. But if they fought, maybe they'd take some Kryn with them. Maybe they'd send a warning back to Earth. Maybe their deaths would mean something. The hologram showed the Horizon suddenly accelerating, ramming one of the Kryn destroyers. No shields, no weapons, so Jiwoo used the ship itself as a weapon. Rammed the nearest Kryn destroyer at near light speed. The destroyer's shields held, but the impact knocked it off course into an asteroid field. Kyle leaned forward, interested despite himself. The other Kryn ships closed in, but the Horizon's chief engineer, a woman named Hana, had an idea. They couldn't fight 5 destroyers, but they didn't need to. He showed the engineering deck, Hana working frantically at the FTL drive. She rigged the FTL drive to create a feedback pulse. Basically turned their engine into a bomb. Ana 4. Suicide, Kale said. Deterrent, Taemin corrected. They broadcast a message to the Kryn. Back off or we detonate. Take you all with us. And the Kryn retreated? Arya asked hopefully. Taemin shook his head. The Kryn had fought 17 species before. They'd seen desperate tactics. They thought it was a bluff. They kept coming. The hologram showed the moment. Hana's hand on the detonator. Ji-woo giving the nod. The flash of light. Hana detonated it. The FTL drive didn't explode like a normal bomb. It tore a hole in space-time. For 3 seconds, there was a miniature black hole at Proxima Centauri. It pulled in 2 Kryn destroyers completely. Damaged the other 3 so badly they couldn't fight. Kale stood up straight. Impossible. The Horizon couldn't have survived that. It didn't, Taemin said quietly. The ship was torn apart. 70% casualties. Captain Ji-woo survived. Hana didn't. She stayed in engineering to manually control the detonation. She saved the crew but died doing it. He showed the aftermath. The wreckage of the Horizon, floating in space. Escape pods drifting. Kryn ships retreating. The surviving Kryn ships limped away. They reported back to their fleet that they'd encountered a new species. A species that would rather die than surrender. A species that turned their own ship into a weapon. A species that fought like cornered animals. Kale was quiet for a long moment. What happened to the survivors? They drifted for 3 days before an Earth rescue ship arrived. By then, more Kryn ships had come, but they didn't attack. They just watched, studied us. Then they left. Taemin changed the hologram one last time. It showed a memorial on Earth. A statue of Captain Ji-woo and her crew, with Hana's name carved largest. The Horizon survivors returned to Earth as heroes. But they didn't feel like heroes. 70% of their friends were dead. Their ship was destroyed. They'd failed to establish a colony, but they'd done something more important. What? Arya asked. They'd sent a message to the galaxy. Humans will fight. Humans don't surrender. Attack us. And even if you win, it will cost you. Kyle walked to the window, looking out at the stars. The Kryn haven't attacked human space since. No, Taemin confirmed. And not just the Kryn. Word spread. The crazy species from Sol that weaponized their own ship. The species that chose death over surrender. Within a decade, most predatory species had marked human space as too costly to invade. But you've had other conflicts, Kale said. I've read the reports. Border skirmishes. Pirate attacks. Of course, Taemin said. But never full-scale invasions. Never attempts at conquest. Because everyone remembers the Horizon. Everyone knows what humans will do when cornered. He walked over to stand beside KL at the window. You think we're a threat, Commander? You're right. We are. But not the way you think. We don't want to conquer you. We don't want your territory. What we want is to be left alone to explore in peace. And we've made it very clear what happens to anyone who doesn't let us do that. You've made yourselves into a weapon, Kale said. We've made ourselves into survivors. Taemin corrected. Captain Ji-woo didn't want to die. Hana didn't want to sacrifice herself. But when faced with slavery or death, they chose death on their own terms. That's not aggression, Commander. That's self-determination. Unquote. That's self-determination, Arya spoke up. Tell him the rest. About what happened after. Taemin nodded. After the Horizon incident, Earth built more ships. Better ships. Some were exploratory, like the Horizon, but some were military. We learned from that first battle. We designed weapons, shields, tactics. Not to conquer, but to ensure that what happened to the horizon never happened again. An arms race, Kale said. Self-defense, Tae-min replied. Within 20 years, humanity had the third-largest fleet in the galaxy. Not because we wanted power, but because we refused to be victims again. Kale turned to face him. And now? Now that you have that power? What's stopping you from using it to expand? To conquer? Tae-min met his gaze steadily. The same thing that stopped Captain Ji-woo from surrendering. The same thing that drives every human who goes into space. We're not looking for a fight, Commander. We're looking for a future. Fighting is what we do when someone tries to take that future away from us. Well, one. He pulled up one final image. It showed a chart of human expansion over 80 years. Look at this. 47 colonies, 14 research stations, 9 trading hubs. We've encountered 32 different species. Do you know how many we've attacked? Kale looked at the data. According to this, only the Kryn and 2 pirate groups. Exactly. 2 pirate groups that attacked our ships first, and the Kryn, who tried to enslave us. Every other species we've met, we've traded with, talked with. Some we've become allies with, some we've avoided, but we haven't conquered anyone. Arya stepped forward. This is what I needed you to see, Kale. Humans aren't conquerors. They're survivors who fight when threatened. Kale was quiet for a long time, studying the data, thinking. I still don't trust them. But I think I understand them better. A cornered animal is dangerous, but an animal that just wants to be left alone. He looked at Tae-min. Is manageable. We're not animals. Tae-min said firmly. We're people, trying to build a future among the stars. Same as you. ADC. We're not animals. Kale nodded slowly. Perhaps. Time will tell. He turned to Arya. Princess, I will revise my report. Humans are still a threat, but perhaps not the threat I believed them to be. As he left, Arya turned to Tae-min. Thank you. He needed to hear that. Did it help? Tae-min asked. I think so, she said. He sees you differently now. Not as conquerors waiting to strike, but as, she searched for the word, survivors. Tae-min finished. It's all we've ever been. It's all we ever want to be. 3 days later, Princess Arya sent a message requesting to meet Tae-min in her private chambers. It was highly unusual. A Velthrian royal inviting an alien into private quarters was almost unheard of, but Arya had convinced her father that understanding humans was critical to the future of their species. The chambers were smaller than Tae-min expected. Beautiful, yes, with flowing curtains and soft lighting, but intimate, personal. Arya sat by a large window that showed the stars, and she looked tired. Thank you for coming, she said as he entered. I've been reading reports for days, colony surveys, exploration logs, incident reports. I need you to help me make sense of it. Tae-min sat across from her. What troubles you? She pulled up a hologram between them. It showed a frozen moon, white and barren. This is Colony June 14, named after its founder, a man named June. The surface temperature averages -170 degrees. The atmosphere is toxic. There's no liquid water, no plant life. Nothing. She looked at him. Why would humans colonize this? Tae-min smiled slightly. Because June saw potential. Potential for what? Death? Potential for life, Tae-min said. He expanded the hologram to show underground structures. June was a geologist. He surveyed that moon and found massive underground ice deposits and geothermal vents, heat and water, just buried deep. He proposed building underground cities, using the geothermal energy for power and melting the ice for water. That's insane, Arya said. Why not just colonize a planet that's already habitable? Because all the easy planets were already claimed by other species, Tae-min replied. Or they were too far away. Or they didn't have the resources we needed. June 14 is rich in rare minerals. It's strategically located near a trade route, and most importantly, no one else wanted it. He pulled up images of the colony. Underground chambers carved from ice and rock. Humans in thermal suits walking through illuminated tunnels. Gardens growing under artificial lights. June took 40 volunteers and spent 10 years building the initial colony. They lived in prefab shelters while they carved out the first chambers. 3 of them died in accidents, equipment failures, tunnel collapses, but the others kept going. Now, 70 years later, June 14 has a population of 12,000. They export rare earth minerals and ice core research data. Children are born there who've never seen natural sunlight and don't care because it's home. Arya shook her head in disbelief. But it's so harsh. So dangerous. Compared to what? Tamin asked. Compared to Earth. Princess. Parts of Earth are colder than June. 14. Antarctica, our South Pole, reaches minus 80 degrees. We've had research stations there for over 200 years. Living on June 14 is just an extension of what we've always done. Take a hostile environment and make it livable. She pulled up another image. This one showed a planet with massive storms visible from orbit, Nova Sol. Gravity is 1.6 times Earth standard. The storms generate lightning powerful enough to destroy ships, tornadoes that last for months, and yet, you have 3 million people living there. 3.2 million at last census, Tamin corrected. Nova Sol was colonized 50 years ago. The high gravity is actually an advantage for certain industries. Metal forging, chemical processing, anything where weight and pressure matter. Plus, children born there grow up incredibly strong. Don't they have health problems? Arya asked. The stress on their bodies? Some do, Tamin admitted. Heart problems, joint issues. But humans adapt. The second generation born there is already showing genetic adaptations. Denser bones, stronger cardiovascular systems. Give it a few more generations and there'll be a distinct subspecies. Homo novus. Some scientists call them. Arya looked disturbed. You're changing, evolving into something else. We've always evolved, Tamin said. That's what life does. It adapts. Humans in high altitudes on Earth developed larger lungs. Humans in Arctic regions developed different metabolisms. Now we're doing it on different worlds. In 1,000 years, humans from Nova Sol might not even be able to live on Earth anymore. They'll be built for high gravity. He pulled up a star map showing human colonies scattered across space. Look at this. 47 colonies, each one different. Desert worlds where water is precious. Ocean worlds where everything is built on floating platforms. Jungle worlds where the plants are toxic. Ice worlds, storm worlds, high radiation worlds. We're everywhere. But why? Arya asked, almost pleading. Why choose suffering? Why not wait for better planets? Safer planets? Tamin looked at her for a long moment before answering. Because waiting means dying. Earth taught us that. Species that don't expand, don't adapt, don't take risks. They go extinct. We have 8 billion people on Earth and another 2 billion scattered across the colonies. That's too many to stay in one place. We need room to grow. We need resources. We need options. He highlighted several colonies on the map. The Dust Gardens. A desert planet with acid rain. A woman named Sojin led the terraforming effort. It took 30 years. She died before seeing it completed, but now it feeds 20 colonies with its agriculture. Another colony lit up, Frosthaven. Built inside a glacier on a rogue planet with no sun. They mine exotic ices and study dark matter. Life expectancy is lower than Earth standard because of the radiation. People volunteer to go there anyway. More colonies appeared. New Busan. Built on a planet that orbits a binary star system. Day-night cycles are chaotic. Temperatures swing 100 degrees. They've developed the best environmental adaptation technology in human space because they had to. He looked at Arya. Every colony has a story. Every colony has people who died building it. And every colony has people who were born there and can't imagine living anywhere else. That's what human expansion looks like, Princess. Not conquest. Not domination. Just people pushing into hostile environments because it's better than staying still. Arya pulled up a report. This is a casualty list. Humans who died in space over the last 80 years. Exploration accidents, colony failures, ship malfunctions. 17,000 names. 17,412, Taemin said quietly. We keep an exact count. Every name is remembered. Every loss is mourned. And you keep going anyway, Arya said. What choice do we have? Taemin asked. Stay on Earth and watch our population strangle itself? Stay in safe, comfortable zones and stagnate? We tried that for thousands of years. Different human civilizations rose and fell. The ones that stayed isolated, that didn't explore, that didn't adapt, they collapsed. The ones that explored, that took risks, that pushed boundaries, they survived. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. My grandfather told me something when I joined the space program. He said, Taemin, you might die out there. Space is dangerous and uncaring. But you know what's more dangerous? Living a safe life that means nothing. Every human who ever mattered, who ever changed the world, who ever discovered something new, they took risks. They failed. Sometimes, they died. But they tried. Arya joined him at the window. My people don't think like that. We value safety, longevity. We have individuals who've lived for 400 years because we're so careful. And how many of them have done anything worth remembering? Taemin asked gently. How many have discovered new worlds, created new art, pushed the boundaries of what's possible? She was quiet. There's nothing wrong with safety, Princess. Nothing wrong with careful planning and long lives. But there's also value in taking chances, in pushing limits, in accepting that failure and death are possibilities, but not letting them stop you. He pulled up one more image. It showed a young girl, maybe 10 years old, standing on a rocky surface. Behind her was a massive gas giant, filling half the sky. She was smiling, her arms spread wide. This is May. She lives on a moon of that gas giant. The radiation there will probably give her cancer by age 40. The gravity fluctuations cause chronic pain for most adults. The colony is barely self-sufficient. And look at her face. Look at that joy. The image showed pure happiness. A child who knew she lived in a dangerous place and didn't care because it was beautiful and new and hers. That's why we expand, Princess. Not for resources or territory or power. We expand because there are children like May who deserve to see that view, who deserve to grow up on different worlds and experience different lives, who deserve the chance to be part of something larger than themselves. Arya's voice was soft. You're not fearless. You're hopeful. Terribly, dangerously hopeful. Yes, Taemin agreed. Hope is the most human thing about us. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. We survived. Space is trying to kill us now. We're surviving that too. And as long as there are stars we haven't seen, worlds we haven't walked on, mysteries we haven't solved, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. He looked at her seriously. You asked why humans fear nothing. But we fear plenty. We fear stagnation. We fear giving up. We fear dying without knowing what's beyond the next star. Those fears drive us forward, push us to take risks, make us seem reckless to species like yours. Arya nodded slowly. I'm starting to understand. You're not running toward danger. You're running toward possibility. And danger is just something that gets in the way. Exactly, Taemin said. Danger is a cost we're willing to pay for discovery, for growth, for the chance to be more than we are. She looked at the star map again. At all those scattered human colonies. What happens when you run out of frontier? When there are no more harsh worlds to colonize? Taemin smiled. Then we'll find new frontiers. Other galaxies. Other dimensions. Other challenges. Humans don't stop, Princess. We can't. It's not in our nature. Earth made us into explorers and survivors. Space is just our latest challenge. And if you encounter something that can stop you? Arya asked. Something too dangerous even for humans? Taemin thought about that. Then we'll die trying to overcome it. And the humans who survive will learn from our failure and try again differently. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. Fail, learn, adapt, survive, repeat. He looked at her. It's worked for millions of years. I don't see us changing now. Arya was quiet for a long time. Processing everything. Finally, she said, I need to recommend to my father that we establish closer ties with humanity. Not just diplomatic, cultural, scientific, economic. Why? Taemin asked. She smiled slightly. Because in 1,000 years, my people will still be living carefully on our safe worlds, and your people will be scattered across the galaxy, living on worlds we can't even imagine. I'd rather be your friends when that happens than your obstacles. The diplomatic summit was coming to an end. In 2 days, the delegates would return to their home worlds, and the long process of treaty negotiations would begin through official channels. But tonight, there was a final reception. A chance for informal conversation before everyone left. Taemin stood at the same window where this had all started a week ago. So much had changed since Princess Arya had asked him that simple question. Why do humans fear nothing? Ambassador. He turned. Arya approached. But she wasn't alone. Behind her came her father, Emperor Vel, of the Velthrian Empire. Taemin had seen him at the formal sessions, but they'd never spoken directly. The Emperor was tall, even for a Velthrian, with silver hair and eyes that had seen 3 centuries of history. Taemin bowed respectfully. Your Majesty. Your Majesty. Walk with us, the Emperor said. It wasn't a request. They moved to a private observation deck. Through the massive windows, Taemin could see a human colony ship in the distance. It was preparing to depart, its engines glowing with pre-jump energy. My daughter has told me about your conversations, the Emperor said. About Earth. About your history. About why your people explore with such enthusiasm. I hope I didn't offend, Your Majesty. Offend? The Emperor smiled slightly. No. Ambassador. You've done something far worse. You've made me question 300 years of Velthrian policy. Arya spoke up. Father, I really think, he raised a hand gently. I'm not criticizing, daughter. I'm observing. He turned to Taemin. We Velthrians have survived for thousands of years by being cautious. We don't take unnecessary risks. We plan carefully. We expand slowly. It's kept us alive and prosperous. A wise approach, Taemin said diplomatically. Is it? The Emperor asked. We have 12 colonies in 300 years. You have 47 in 80. We have avoided conflict by being careful. You have avoided conquest by being formidable. We live long, safe lives. Your people live shorter, more dangerous lives. And yet, he looked out at the colony ship. And yet when I look at that ship, about to jump to an unexplored system, I feel something I haven't felt in a very long time. Envy. Taemin was surprised. Envy, Your Majesty? My people are content. Safe. We have everything we need. But we've lost something that your people still have. That fire. That drive to see what's beyond the horizon. He looked at Taemin. Tell me, Ambassador. That ship. Where is it going? Taemin checked his data pad. That's the Horizon 2. Captain Daun. Commanding. They're heading to a system 300 light-years away. Initial scans show 2 potentially habitable planets and 3 moons with water ice. Potentially habitable, the Emperor repeated. Not confirmed. Habitable. No, Your Majesty. That's what they're going to find out. And if it's not habitable, if it's dangerous, Taemin smiled. Then they'll make it habitable. Or they'll study why it's dangerous and add to our knowledge. Or they'll find something else interesting. Exploration always returns value, even if not the value you expected. The Emperor watched the ship for a long moment. How many crew? 300. Plus 50 colonists, in cryo-sleep. Ready to stay, if they find a good world. And they volunteered for this? Knowing the risks? They competed for the positions, Your Majesty. There were 5,000 applicants for 350 slots. Captain Daun could have filled the ship twice over with qualified people eager to go. The Emperor shook his head slowly. Remarkable. And terrifying. Why terrifying? Arya asked. Because it means they're unstoppable, her father replied. A species that volunteers for danger, that competes for the chance to risk their lives, that sees the unknown as an opportunity rather than a threat. How do you contain that? How do you predict it? How do you prepare for it? You don't, Taemin said quietly. You can't. But you also don't need to. Your Majesty. We're not your enemy. I'm beginning to believe that, the Emperor said. But you understand my concern. In 1,000 years, where will humanity be? How far will you have spread? How much will you have changed? Taemin considered his answer carefully. In 1,000 years, Your Majesty, humans will probably be scattered across multiple galaxies. We'll have adapted to hundreds of different environments. We might not even look the same anymore. High-gravity humans, low-gravity humans, humans adapted to different atmospheres and radiations. We'll be diverse and widespread, and still expanding, the Emperor said. Probably, Taemin admitted. As long as there are frontiers, humans will push toward them. It's in our nature. That's what concerns me. It shouldn't, Taemin said. Because in that same 1,000 years, we'll also have created art and music and literature from 100 different worlds. We'll have made scientific discoveries and shared them with anyone who wants to know. We'll have protected trade routes and helped species in need and celebrated the diversity of galactic civilization. We're not just explorers, Your Majesty. We're builders, contributors, friends. He gestured to the colony ship. That ship represents everything humans are. Yes, it's going into danger, but it's also carrying seeds from Earth, art from our colonies, messages of greeting in 40 languages. If they find intelligent life, they'll make contact peacefully. If they find resources, they'll share the data with the galactic community. If they find beauty, they'll send back images for everyone to see. That's what human exploration looks like. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that surprised both Arya and Taemin. I want to send someone with them. Father? Arya said, shocked. A Velthrian observer, the Emperor continued. Someone to see how humans explore, to learn from their methods, to report back on what they find. He looked at Arya. I want it to be you. Arya's eyes went wide. Me? Father? I'm third in line for the throne. I can't just... You can, he said firmly. You're the one who started questioning our assumptions about humanity. You're the one who's been talking to Ambassador Taemin, learning about their culture. You're the perfect choice. But it's dangerous, Arya protested. Yes, her father agreed. That's exactly why you should go. You've spent your whole life in safety, learning protocols and procedures, training for a throne you'll probably never sit on because your older siblings are healthy and young. When will you ever get another chance to do something that matters? Something that's truly yours? He turned to Taemin. Would your Captain Daun accept a Velthrian observer? Taemin thought about it. I'd need to ask her. But probably yes. Humans value different perspectives. Having an alien viewpoint on the expedition could be valuable. As long as the observer understands, they'll be taking the same risks as everyone else. I understand, Arya said quietly. Then, louder, I want to go. Her father smiled. I thought you might. Over the next hour, they discussed details. Communications. Protocols. What equipment Arya would need. How to present this to both governments as a cultural exchange rather than a political risk. The Emperor was surprisingly supportive, encouraging even. Finally, he left them alone to watch the colony ship complete its preparations. Are you sure about this? Taemin asked Arya. It really is dangerous. The Horizon 2 could encounter hostile aliens, natural disasters, equipment failures. People might die. I know, Arya said. I've read the casualty statistics. But that's not what I'm thinking about. What are you thinking about? She looked at him with those large, dark eyes. Remember when you told me about May? The little girl on the radiation moon? Smiling at the gas giant? Taemin nodded. I've never felt that. Never had that joy of discovery. I've lived 300 years, Taemin. 300 careful, safe, boring years. I've learned languages and histories and protocols. I've attended 10,000 diplomatic functions. I've done everything expected of me. And I've never once felt truly alive. She turned to watch the colony ship. When you talked about Earth, about survival and adaptation, and pushing forward despite the danger, I felt something wake up inside me. Something I didn't know was sleeping, and now I can't ignore it. What is it? Taemin asked. Curiosity, she said simply. Wonder. The desire to see something no one from my world has ever seen. To take a risk. To be part of something larger than myself. She laughed softly. Armins, you've infected me with your terrible, dangerous hope. Taemin smiled. Then you understand what drives us. Finally. Really understand. I think I do, she said. You asked me once what humans fear. But I never asked you what you hope for. So, I'm asking now. What do you hope for? Taemin, he thought about it. I hope that one day, every species in the galaxy will look at the stars, not with fear, but with excitement. I hope we'll explore together, learn together, grow together. I hope humans can show others that the universe isn't something to hide from, but something to embrace. And, I hope, he paused. What? Arya prompted. I hope that species like yours, with thousands of years of wisdom and caution, can teach species like mine when to slow down, when to be careful, when to think before leaping. We need each other, Princess. Your caution and our boldness. Your patience and our energy. Together, we could accomplish things neither species could do alone. The colony ship's engines flared bright. It was preparing for the jump. I'll need a few days to prepare, Arya said. To say goodbye to my family. To get the right equipment. The Horizon 2 leaves in 5 days, Taemin said. That enough time? It'll have to be, she said. Then, quieter. I'm scared. Good, Taemin said. Fear keeps you alert. Keeps you alive. The trick is not letting it stop you. Is that what humans do? Feel fear and go anyway? Every single day, Taemin confirmed. We're terrified of space, Princess. Terrified of the dark, the cold, the endless ways to die. But we're more terrified of staying still, of never knowing what's out there, of dying with our curiosity unsatisfied. So we go. Afraid, but going anyway. The colony ship jumped. One moment it was there, engines burning bright. The next, it was gone, leaving only a ripple in space-time. 300 light years in an instant, Arya breathed, heading into the unknown. That'll be you in 5 days, Taemin said. She turned to him with a smile. It was the first truly excited smile he'd seen from her. I can't wait. 3 months later, Taemin received a transmission. It took a few minutes to decrypt and process, but when it played, it showed Princess Arya standing on the surface of a new world. Behind her, a purple sky met orange sand. Strange crystalline formations rose from the ground, catching triple sunlight from a trinary star system. Ambassador Taemin, she said in the recording, I wanted you to see this. We've found something incredible. A whole ecosystem based on silicon instead of carbon, structures that grow like plants but are actually mineral formations. Captain Daun says, this could revolutionize our understanding of how life develops. She turned to show more of the landscape. But that's not why I'm sending this. I'm sending it because I finally understand what you meant. About hope. About wonder. About the terrible joy of discovery. She looked back at the camera. I was scared on the journey here. Equipment failed. We nearly lost the ship in an asteroid field. 2 crew members were injured, but we made it. And standing here, looking at something no one has ever seen before, it's worth it. All the risk, all the fear. This moment makes it worth it. She smiled that same excited smile. Thank you for showing me this, for helping me understand why humans fear nothing. You don't fear nothing. You fear dying without living. And now I understand that fear. I feel it too. The recording ended with her looking up at the alien sky, arms spread wide, exactly like that little girl May. Taemin saved the transmission and sent a copy to Emperor Vel with a simple message. Your daughter understands now. The Emperor's reply came hours later. So do I. Let's talk about a joint exploration program. And Taemin smiled, looking out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, a Velthrian princess was learning what it meant to be human. Not in species, but in spirit. The spirit that looked at the unknown and said, I want to see that. The spirit that Earth had forged in humanity over millions of years of survival. The spirit that would carry both their peoples to the stars and beyond. Hope. Terrible. Unstoppable. Beautiful hope.